How's it going, everyone, and welcome to the Thinking Blue podcast. I am your host, Blake Harris. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Dodgers offseason as a whole so far, all the moves they've made, and what my thoughts are on how they've handled the offseason as of right now. If you haven't yet, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Blake Harris TBLA, where I post a lot of great Dodgers content with spring training just a few weeks away, the regular season just about 2 months away. It's definitely a must follow for you Dodger fans, so if you have a Twitter, going over there, follow the account, and I guarantee you won't regret it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notifications so you never missed a video. I post all my podcasts here, and as I've mentioned in previous videos, in the coming months, I'm not exactly sure when it's going to happen, I'm going to start posting other Dodgers-related videos as well. Going to keep it kind of on the lowdown right now, but if you're a Dodgers fan, I can't stress this enough. You must subscribe. It's a absolute must if you're a Dodgers fan. Lots of great Dodgers content coming. Once again, you can also listen to the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts now, so if you'd like to listen to those over there, the links are in the description below, or you could go over there and just search Thinkin' Blue with Blake Harris. You can listen on the car ride to work, in the gym, wherever you need to. Thinkin' Blue with Blake Harris is making the rounds on all different platforms, so again, if you like listening to the show, you can listen on those platforms so you never miss an episode in the future. But before we get started, today is January 27th, meaning we are only 59 days until opening day. Now, in the previous episode, I think it was 65 days until opening day, so I pretty much kind of had a little trivia thing. If you can name as many Dodger players as you could that wore the number 65. There were some people that guessed some good ones, especially on Twitter. A lot of people had some good answers, but 59's a really tough one. I mean, I was trying to think how many Dodgers have worn the number 59. I couldn't even remember the last Dodger that wore the number 59. So I got it up right now. And once again, I'm going to give you guys 15 seconds to come up with an answer. You can leave a comment in this video below, or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple somewhere, you can just have 15 seconds to try to think which Dodger wore the number 59 last. I'll give you guys a hint. He wore it in 2018 and even in 2019. So it's actually a really recent player. So 15 seconds, the last Dodger player to wear the number 59. All right, now the last player on the Dodgers to wear the number 59 was Zach Roskup, who wore number 59 between 2018 and 2019. There have been 14 Dodger players all time to wear the number 59. Probably the one that I, at least looking at this list of players that have worn it, the player that I remember the most was Guillermo Mota, who wore number 59 from 2002 to 2009. But looking at this list of players that have worn number 59, if you could have guessed maybe 3 or even 4 players that have worn it in Dodgers history, man, you are a true Dodgers fan, because, you know, I've been a diehard Dodgers fan for 23 years, ever since I was born, and I'm looking at the list of players that have worn number 59, and I don't even remember some of these players in 2017, 2016, 2015 that wore the number 59. So if you want to look it up, just going over to Baseball Reference, or you can Google like Dodgers numbers history and look at what players have worn each number. But yeah, the number 59, not a popular number amongst Dodgers players in team history. But yeah, if you got Zach Roskup, congratulations, well done. Now, before we get into the offseason news, I want to quickly talk about the prospect rankings that have been coming out over the last few days. This is always a good time of the year where MLB, they release all the different level prospects among different organizations, and there's a whole bunch of different outlets that release prospect rankings as well. So the first group I'm going to go over is the MLB.com pipeline rankings that just came out. The Dodgers have 5 players ranked in the top 100, the highest being Gavin Lux. He came in as the second-rated prospect in all of baseball. Dustin May came in at number 23. Jeter Downs, number 44, Josiah Gray, 67, and Keibert Ruiz, number 73. So technically, I guess if you want to talk about true prospects, the Dodgers have 3, considering that Gavin Lux and Dustin May, I would assume, are going to be starting the 2020 season with the Dodgers. If not, they'll be in the minors very shortly. So I don't really consider those prospects anymore. So the Dodgers, they got technically 3 that cracked the top 100. Jeter Downs, Josiah Gray. Obviously, those are the 2 guys that came back in the Yasiel Puig Reds trade, which right now is looking like a really good deal for the Dodgers, considering they got 2 top 100 prospects out of it. Keibert Ruiz, he's still one of the best catching prospects in all of baseball. Still, a top 100 prospect, still one of the highest rated prospects in the Dodgers organization. Maybe we see him in 2020. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if we see him no later than maybe June or July. You would have to assume him and Will Smith are going to be the catching duo of the future. Not sure how long the Dodgers plan on holding on to Austin Barnes, but again, Keibert Ruiz, I'm not going to be shocked if we see him later this season. Baseball America, another highly rated ranking system. They came out with theirs, and the Dodgers had 7 players crack the top 100. Now, I believe it was second most behind the Tampa Bay Rays. I think the Tampa Bay Rays had 8 prospects in the top 100. The Dodgers had 7. Gavin Lux, he was the highest rated prospect. He came in at number 4. Dustin May came in at 20. And then there was a pretty decent-sized gap between the next Dodger prospect, unlike the MLB rankings, where it was only like a 20 prospect number gap. Keibert Ruiz, he's the next rated guy. He comes in at number 81. Following him is Tony Gonsolin at number 82. Josiah Gray at number 84. Jeter Downs, 86. And Diego Cartaya. I haven't seen him or heard about him enough to know the full and accurate pronunciation of his name, so I'm not sure if it's Cartaya, but I'm going to go with Cartaya for right now. He comes in at number 97. He's another catcher in the Dodgers system. I am super excited. He's probably the prospect I'm most looking forward to in the entire Dodgers organization because he's so young. I believe he's only 18, 19 years old, something like that. He's very young. He's probably not even going to get past Rancho Cucamonga this year, so he probably has at least another 2 or 3 years until we can see him reach the big leagues. But this guy has a lot of hype. The footage I've seen from him out here in Arizona, he looks like he's the real deal. So a name to keep an eye on in regards to prospects moving forward. He could be a potential name that could be huge in a potential trade down the line. Again, I'm not exactly sure what the Dodgers plan on using for him, but Diego Cartaya, a good prospect, one to keep an eye on moving forward. I'm really happy to see that he cracked the Baseball America Top 100. He definitely has to be probably, I would assume, one of the youngest members on the Top 100 list, I would have to say. Finally, we have the Baseball Prospectus list. The Dodgers had 6 members crack the list. Gavin Lux, he comes in at number 3. Dustin May comes in at number 8, so that's the highest Dustin May was on any of these lists. Josiah Gray comes in at number 61. Miguel Vargas, here's a name that didn't crack the other 2 lists. He comes in at number 65. Keibert Ruiz comes in at 79, and Tony Gonsolin comes in at number 81. This is an interesting list, I guess, mainly considering that it has Miguel Vargas on, especially at number 65, whereas the other prospect rankings, he didn't even crack the top 100. And so I was kind of intrigued to see Miguel Vargas this high, and I was extremely shocked to see Jeter Downs not even make the list. I mean, he was number 44, as I mentioned on MLB.com. Baseball America had him as number 84, or actually 86, excuse me, and he doesn't even crack the top 100. So interesting one right there, but I'm not really going to pay too much attention to it because we know how good these prospects are. We know they're going to be good. We know they're going to be highly touted prospects. So wherever they are, wherever they're ranked on these different lists, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just glad to see different Dodger prospects ranked. And again, the fact that the Dodgers are arguably going to be a top 2 or top 3 team in baseball next season, the fact that they have arguably a top 5, maybe even a top 3 farm system in baseball. That's just incredible. The way they continue to develop these young prospects is truly remarkable. You mentioned all these names, and this isn't even including Michael Busch, Cody Hosey, the Dodgers' top 2 picks from the draft last season, who in a year or two are likely going to be cracking this top 100 list. So the Dodgers farm system continues to stay deep. And not only do you have all these young guys in the farm system that are going to help develop your team for the future moving forward, you have a bunch of guys that you can use in potential trade packages that I'm going to be going over right now the next few minutes. All right, now I talked about this on my last podcast, but I'm going to kind of give a brief update on what's going on with Nolan Arenado and Mookie Betts. In the last episode, I talked about the whole Rockies thing with Nolan Arenado, how he's not happy with the Rockies and that whole situation there. Nothing really new has come out as of late. He's still a Rocky. There doesn't seem to be any trade rumors swirling as of what's today, January 27th. So as of now, he's a Rocky. That might change by the time I record my next podcast. I'll have to wait and see. But as of now, he's still a Rocky. This one's a little more interesting, and that's the Mookie Betts situation. I think I've talked about this in maybe 2 or 3 different podcasts because it seems like there's always something new that comes out. We know that the Red Sox are potentially going to be shopping Mookie Betts. We know the Dodgers are probably going to be interested. Well, Ken Rosenthal reported, I think it was yesterday, saying that the Red Sox are still in discussions about trading Mookie Betts. It looks like it's the Dodgers and the Padres that have, I guess, been talking the most with the Red Sox. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the Padres can offer that'd be better than the Dodgers. There was a report that the Padres want the Red Sox to take on Will Myers' contract in a return, which I don't think would make sense because the whole point of the Red Sox making this trade would be to dump salary. I don't think they're going to want to make the trade if they're taking on Will Myers' salary. I don't have his contract up right now, but I'm pretty sure Will Myers is a couple years, and it's a pretty hefty contract from what I remember. So I don't know exactly how much sense that makes in regards to the Padres. Now, there haven't really been anything that have come out with the Dodgers, what they want. I know a few weeks ago there was some report that the Red Sox were interested in potentially Will Smith coming into potential trade. Not exactly sure how much truth there was to that. But I mentioned this in the previous episode. I think that the Dodgers could make the trade without having to part ways with Gavin Lux, without having to part ways with Dustin May, because you are having to take on Mookie Betts for one season. That's a big risk. Ken Rosenthal did report that David Price appears to not be in the discussions in a potential trade, which I found kind of interesting because I feel like, again, the whole reason the Red Sox want to make this trade is to get under the luxury tax. You want to get rid of David Price's remaining $95 million. Now, again, a team might come on, they might pay 75% of that. The Red Sox might have to pay like $20 or $30 million if it's still, which I'm sure they would be fine with doing. But I was interested that so supposedly these talks have been going on without David Price's name attached. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, I still think Mookie Betts is going to be a Dodger by the time October rolls around. I really think the Dodgers at the trade deadline will acquire Mookie Betts. But again, if you're the Red Sox, I don't know why you'd wait till the trade deadline. Why take a risk on Mookie Betts maybe getting hurt? Maybe taking a chance on him slumping and kind of decreasing his value just a bit. You want to save money. Well, why pay him for more than half of the season when you can be off the hooks completely? So again, if I'm the Red Sox and I'm really set on clearing salary, getting rid of him, I would get rid of him before the season started. I try to get rid of him before spring training started, but then again, that's just me. So that's the latest on the forefront, but I'm not too worried about it right now because ultimately, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's in a month, or whether it's in July, I think Mookie Betts is going to be a Dodger. And so again, I'm not too worried about when the Dodgers acquire him. It's just a matter of who they give up and who they're potentially getting back in regards to other pieces surrounding Mookie Betts. All right, it's time to get into the latest Dodgers off-season news. Now, in previous episodes, I've talked about some of their moves. I talked about the Blake Treinen signing, which I thought was incredible. Before they even signed him, I wrote an article saying the Dodgers need to try to sign Blake Treinen because I thought he'd be a great piece in the bullpen. So if you want to hear my full thoughts on the signing, you can go back a few episodes and listen to that. And I also talked about the Dodgers losing Hyun-Jin Ryu to the Blue Jays. I thought, everyone here loves Hyun-Jin. Hyun-Jin Ryu was such a great pitcher, but the amount of money that he was wanting, I thought the Dodgers were smart not to offer it. I just thought with his injury history, his age, it just would have been too big of a risk. So although I'm sad to see Hyun-Jin leave, I'm glad he got his money, but it was a smart decision for the Dodgers. So speaking about another pitcher that the Dodgers let walk, this one probably hurt more. I know this one hurt a lot of Dodgers fans, and that was Rich Hill, who signed a one-year deal with the Minnesota Twins. Now, it wasn't for a lot of money. I think it was for like $2 or $3 million, but there are a lot of incentives in the contract, which I believe, depending on the incentives, he can make up to $10 million next season. Now, I assume that's depending on, the health of him, how many games he starts, how many games he appears in, how many innings he pitches, but that was a really tough one because Rich Hill was... He's just such a tough one to try to analyze because in his, 3.5 years with the Dodgers, he was good. He was lights out. He made 68 starts, had an ERA of 3.16, had an ERA of 2.45 last season, had an ERA of 1.83 when he came over in that Josh Reddick Oakland A's trade back in 2016. Rich Hill was always good. He was always a reliable starter. The only problem was he wasn't reliable in regards to making starts. In 2017, he made 25 starts, and then in 2018, he made 25 starts. Again, 25 starts is a good amount, but he did miss, about a month and a half or 2 months with injuries. I mean, he had the whole blister problem, and it just seemed like there was always some sort of injury that was kind of lingering with Rich Hill. This past season was a really tough one for him. Only made 13 starts, missed about 2.5 months or so from like the middle of June through about the end of August, early September. So he missed a good portion of the season, and he's going to be 40 next season. I don't know where he would have fit into this Dodgers pitching staff, because with how their starting rotation looks now, which I'll get into when I talk about some of their other moves, I just don't see how there would have been room for Rich Hill. I'm not exactly sure if he was willing to take on a bullpen role for this upcoming season. Now, he's not even going to be ready to start the regular season. He's going to miss a few months. I think I remember hearing he's not going to be back until June, I want to say. So he's already going to be missing a few months of the regular season. And, maybe he just didn't want to have that bullpen type role. He wanted to be a starter still, and the Dodgers couldn't offer it. He came out the other day and said, a bunch of positive things about the Dodgers. So the good thing is him and the Dodgers didn't, leave on bad terms. He wanted to become a Minnesota Twin. He liked what they had to offer, but it was a tough thing for Rich Hill. Again, I would have loved for him to come back. I'm sure the Dodgers would have loved for him to come back as well. It's just one of those things where you have to take into account, again, his age, his injury history. Is he worth giving a roster spot to over someone that potentially has a better chance of helping you win in 2020? So what I was hoping, what my ideal situation would have been Rich Hill would have retired and he would have come and joined the Dodgers coaching staff in some way, so he could have remained a Dodger. But he'll be a Minnesota Twin this upcoming season. Maybe he'll retire next season and he'll come back to the Dodgers and as some sort of coach, because I know he loved his time in Los Angeles so much. So, yeah, it's tough to see Rich Hill go. I understand why the Dodgers didn't do it. I understand why he wanted maybe to go somewhere else. I mean, he's still going to a team where they're going to have a chance to win. They're going to be able to compete for a World Series. So at least he still has that going for him. But yeah, man, I'm really going to miss Rich Hill. I'm really going to miss the Dick Mountain. All right, the first move I'm going to talk about is the Jimmy Nelson signing. Jimmy Nelson signed with the Dodgers back in early January. He has spent his entire career with the Brewers organization. He came up in 2013. So yeah, Jimmy Nelson, I guess, has had a pretty rocky career, to say the least. He's made 107 starts, has an ERA of 4.22 in all those starts. He's made 119 appearances, so he has 12 games he's come out of the bullpen. A whip of 1.37, strikeout to walk ratio of not even 2.5 to 1, averages only 8 strikeouts per 9, 3.5 walks per 9. He's had a pretty okay career at best, but you look at his 2017 season. His 2017 season, Jimmy Nelson was one of the most underrated players, one of the most underrated starting pitchers in all of baseball. He went 12-6, had an ERA of 3.49 through 175 innings, had a whip of 1.25, had a strikeout per 9 of 10.2. He had a strikeout to walk ratio of 4.1 to 1. But man, you look at Jimmy Nelson's 2017 season, he finished 9th in Cy Young voting. He was 12-6 with a 3.49 ERA. He had 199 strikeouts in 175 innings, had a strikeout to walk ratio of 4.1 to 1. I mean, he was a really good, really underrated starting pitcher for the Brewers in 2017. He then missed all of 2018, and then in 2019, only appeared in 10 games. He went 0-2, had an ERA of 6.95, had a whip of 1.91. Now, he did have a good strikeouts per 9, was averaging 10.6 strikeouts per 9. He was also averaging 7 walks per 9. I mean, in 22 innings, he walked 17, so yeah, that walk ratio was really high. The strikeouts were high, but the walks were high as well. I think Jimmy Nelson is going to be one of those players that's going to be a completely up in the air type move for the Dodgers, where if Jimmy Nelson's able to go back, and I'm not saying he needs to replicate what he did in 2017, that's going to be tough to do. If he can come out and he can be 3/4, 80% of what he was in 2017, the Dodgers are going to be getting a really good player, someone that can be that number 5 starter if there are injuries in the starting rotation, someone that can be a very solid arm in the bullpen. I don't really see how Jimmy Nelson's going to be getting that many starts this season unless there are multiple injuries, because I think the Dodgers starting rotation is set as of right now and Jimmy Nelson won't be in it, so I think he's going to have more of a bullpen role. But as I mentioned, if he can regain some of that 2017 form, he can be a really good piece out of the bullpen. And as I mentioned, he can be a guy that gets a spot start every now and then, or he could be a guy that, is an opener where he goes 2 or 3 innings and the Dodgers can make it a bullpen type of game. So Jimmy Nelson, I know he had a really bad 2019. Now, again, the sample size was kind of small. He did only appear in 10 games, only threw 22 innings. So he wasn't good in those 22 innings, but 22 innings isn't a big enough sample size. He said he's fully healthy for the first time in years, which I assume means the first time since his 2017 season. So I think the Dodgers potentially can have a hidden gem in regards to this signing. They're not going to be expecting as much out of him as maybe other teams would have been. He needs to come in, stay healthy, and if he can eat innings and keep that ERA down and have those strikeout numbers up, because as we've seen, his last 2 seasons, he's been averaging 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. So he's a good strikeout pitcher, needs to get those walks down just a bit. But I really like the signing for the Dodgers. It's a low-risk signing. He's only signed for 1 year. I think it was like $1.5 million. I think he has a team option for 2021. So I think this is a good signing for the Dodgers because, as I mentioned, if he can recapture at least some of what he did in 2017, this could be a sneaky good signing that just gives the Dodgers more depth in the bullpen moving forward. Because, again, this is kind of one of those situations I just talked about with Rich Hill. Do you want to take a chance on 40-year-old Rich Hill, who, again, he's been fairly good with the Dodgers, but he's probably guaranteed to miss a few months of the season? Or do you want to take a chance with 31-year-old Jimmy Nelson, who, as we saw just a few seasons ago, was a Cy Young contender? He finished 9th in Cy Young voting. So do you want to take a chance getting a guy that has Cy Young potential that could be a great piece for your bullpen, or a chance on an injury-riddled Rich Hill? So I like the Jimmy Nelson signing. I think it's a great move. We're going to have to wait and see. Like as I mentioned, he said he's healthy. He said he's ready to go. Only 31 years old, so I'm expecting big things for Jimmy Nelson this upcoming season. All right, the next move I want to talk about is the Dodgers bringing back Alex Wood. Now, this one kind of came out of nowhere. There were no really discussions made about Dodgers potentially bringing back Alex Wood. He came back as a free agent, signed a 1-year deal worth $4 million. Now, again, like Jimmy Nelson, this is kind of a low-risk type signing for the Dodgers. Alex Wood last year with the Cincinnati Reds, he was awful. I mean, he was very bad, to say the least. He made 7 starts for them, went 1-3, ERA of 5.8, had a whip of 1.40. Strikeouts per 9 was only at 7.5, his lowest since 2015. His walks, 2.3. Alex Wood had a really bad season, to say the least, last year with the Cincinnati Reds. Went 1-3, had an ERA of 5.8, only made 7 starts because he missed the first few months with an injury. Had a strikeout to walk ratio of 3.5 to 1, essentially. His strikeouts per 9, 7.6. Those are the lowest they've been since his 2015 season with the Dodgers. He only threw 35 innings. A season he'd like to forget. Across the board, he was just plain awful. And this is going to be another guy where the Dodgers are getting a player. He was injured last season, looked really bad, but he's a former Dodger. He's looked really good for them in the past. Now, I think Alex Wood is probably going to be the number 5 starter. I listened to him on Dodger Talk about a week ago, and he was pretty much saying that he didn't come here to be a bullpen piece. He came here because he knew he was going to be a starter. So if that's the case, the 5 starters for the Dodgers are going to be Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, Kenta Maeda, Julio Urias, and Alex Wood. So I know there's been some discussion about Dustin May where he falls into the starting rotation, but I think Alex Wood is going to be that number 5 starter. And if you're getting the Alex Wood from a few seasons ago when he was with the Dodgers, if he's your number 5 starter, what an absolute steal. His 2017 season was remarkable. He was an all-star, finished top 10 in Cy Young voting. He actually was tied with Jimmy Nelson for 9th in Cy Young voting. He went 16-3, had an ERA of 2.72. His winning percentage of 842 was the highest in baseball that season. So as I mentioned, he had an ERA of 2.72. That was the best of his career. Had a strikeout to walk ratio of 4-1, was averaging 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. It was the tied for the second most of his career. He had a whip of 1.06. And overall, across the board, Alex Wood was just a really good starter for the Dodgers. And I guess now kind of most famously, he was the only starting pitcher to beat the Houston Astros in Minute Maid Park during that 2017 playoff run when the Astros were cheating. So not only was Alex Wood dominant in the 2017 season. He was great for the Dodgers in the World Series, so the Dodgers are getting him back, and I think he's going to be able to recapture what he did with the Dodgers. He went 31-20 in 74 starts, 86 games total with the Dodgers during his 4 years here, had an ERA of 3.46. I mean, he was a really good, I guess, number 2, number 3, kind of number 4 option. He was always kind of being, flipped around in that starting rotation a bit, but he was always a reliable, consistent guy in that starting rotation, and the Dodgers are bringing him back. He's healthy. He's familiar with the organization. He's familiar with the pitching staff. Rick Honeycutt's not there anymore, but I feel like that's not really going to make much of a difference for him. I think we're going to see a bounce-back season from Alex Wood. Now, I don't think he's going to go 16-3, have an ERA of 2.72 again, but if you can get what he gave you in 2018 with the Dodgers, he made 27 starts, had an ERA of 3.68, went 9-7, had a WHIP of 1.20. So those are fairly good numbers, really good, respectable numbers. And if he's going to be your number 5 starter, you'll take those numbers in a heartbeat. So I thought this was a very, very good signing for the Dodgers. It was really, really sad to see him go last year when he was a part of that Yasiel Puig trade that brought in all the prospects. But now that he's back, it's a 1-year deal. Again, it's a very low-risk reward, not that much money. So if Alex Wood comes out, gets hurt, or he just struggles immensely, it's a 1-year contract. Next season, you move on. If he comes out and he's great, then great, the Dodgers got a bargain number 5 starter. They'll probably, it's hard to say what number 5 starters there are going to be in baseball this year, but I'm going to go on record and say Alex Wood is probably going to be the best number 5 starter in all of baseball this year. That's just my hot take. And again, let's just say something's happened in the starting rotation. You need Alex Wood to move to the bullpen. He'd be a great piece in the bullpen. He can eat innings. He has experience coming out of the bullpen before. So overall, again, I love this move for the Dodgers. I thought it was a great signing. It's not the Garrett Cole, Steven Strasburg kind of move that we all hoped the Dodgers would make, but getting Jimmy Nelson, getting Alex Wood, those are two, again, low-risk type moves that can pay huge dividends moving forward for the 2020 season. So overall, great to have Alex Wood back. I'm glad he's back on the Dodgers, and I'm hoping for the best for him for the 2020 season. All right, now it's time to move to the Q&A. As always, if you'd like to ask me a question for a future podcast, make sure to follow me on Twitter at BlakeHarrisTVLA. Usually about an hour or so before I record a podcast, I tweet out saying, hit me up with any questions you have. And also, if you'd like to ask me a question, leave a comment on the YouTube video that you're watching this on, and I'll make sure to answer it in my next podcast moving forward. So unfortunately, we only have time for one question today. I'm kind of going above the time I wanted to. So this comes from Cody Snavely. Again, I apologize, Cody, if I said that name wrong. He said, if the Dodgers stay put with no trades or free agent signings for the rest of the offseason, which he believes they will, would this offseason be labeled as a failure, even though they still have the same team as last year that won 106 games? Now, this is a tough one, especially in regards to Dodgers fans, because coming into the offseason, myself included, I thought that this would be the offseason. They make a big splash. They go out and they sign either Anthony Rendon, Garrett Cole, make a big trade. Now, obviously, something can still happen, but as of right now, they haven't made any major moves or anything as of yet. I don't think it's going to be a failure. I mean, of course, we're all bummed as Dodger fans that they didn't make a big move, but they already have a team that won 106 games last year. They made moves that, in my opinion, upgraded the pitching staff. Now, again, losing Hyun-Jin Ryu, that's going to be an absolute blow. But I think replacing him with Alex Wood and Jimmy Nelson, I think the signing of Blake Treinen was an absolute bargain, especially if he can replicate what he did a few seasons ago. I really like those moves for the Dodgers. They're not the sexy, they're not the flashy moves that you'd like to see, but they're smart, smart moves that are going to help the organization in 2020. It's just really tough when you already have a team that, won 100-plus games that is most likely going to win the division. It's tough to really win the offseason when there's only so much you can do because you already have such a good team. So if the Dodgers don't make anything else the rest of the offseason, I don't think it's going to be a failure of an offseason. If anything, I'd probably give them like a B, just because if you take away the hype behind losing Rendon, behind not signing Garrett Cole, they made good moves. They upgraded the bullpen. They lost 2 starting pitchers. They replaced them with potential starting pitchers. They're going to have a bunch of young guys coming up. Overall, I thought they recovered fairly well. And again, there are still a few weeks left until spring training starts, so we might see a few more little minor moves, or maybe some major moves. But overall, I thought the Dodgers did a fairly good job this offseason. But yeah, that does wrap up this episode of Thinking Blue. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. Now, if you have any questions, as I mentioned, make sure to follow me on Twitter at BlakeHarrisTVLA. You can at me there, or you can send me a DM. I love talking Dodgers baseball. Or you can leave a comment below, and I'll make sure to answer them in my next podcast. Or leave a comment below on some things you'd like to see me discuss in the future, whether that be Dodger moves, some other things. So if there's anything Dodgers related you'd like to see me discuss in the future, leave a comment, or as I mentioned, hit me up on Twitter as well. Thank you again for listening. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you don't miss another podcast. As I've mentioned, lots of great Dodgers content coming here. So if you're a Dodgers fan, you definitely want to subscribe. You definitely want to tune in, because this is the place for you. And don't forget, you can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The links to listen to those are going to be in the description of this video. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. This has been Blake Harris, and I will see you guys very soon.